Russia thought it had everything under control. From the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin believed he was orchestrating a master game, playing Ukraine's Western partners against one another like pieces on a chessboard. In his mind, all he had to do was drag the war out long enough, exhaust his enemies, fracture the alliance supporting Kiev, and then dictate the terms of peace. The ultimate prize? A Ukraine defying, demilitarized, and defenseless, a state that could never again resist Russia's power. But Putin was wrong. What he never anticipated was that the very pressure of his invasion would forge something he feared most: unity. Instead of splintering, Ukraine's allies have become more determined, more organized, and more resolved than ever before. And just days ago in Paris, that unity revealed itself in a way that may shake the Kremlin to its foundations. On September 4, the Kyiv Independent reported that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with dozens of European leaders in Paris. The meeting was quiet, but the outcome thundered across the continent. What emerged from the French capital wasn't just another diplomatic communiqué. It was the birth of a coalition so powerful, so determined, and so resolute that Russia now faces a future it never wanted. 26 nations standing together, 26 governments committing themselves not only to Ukraine's survival during war, but to its security long after the war ends. The coalition of the willing, as it is being called, has pledged to guarantee Ukraine's security with troops, resources, weapons, and a shield against any future Russian aggression. For Putin, this is a nightmare. France's President Emmanuel Macron announced the decision to the press, his words cutting through the noise like a blade. 26 countries, he declared, have formally pledged to stand behind Ukraine's defense and to guarantee its security after the war. Troops on the ground, naval support, air patrols, financial backing. A future in which Ukraine not only survives but emerges stronger than ever before. Zelenskyy himself confirmed that some of Europe's most powerful nations, Germany, Italy, and Poland, were already locked in as guarantors. Though the full list of the 26 nations has not yet been revealed, the picture is becoming clear. France is obviously among them. The United Kingdom has hinted strongly at its participation. And it is almost certain that the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, together with Poland, will be among the most eager to contribute. These are nations living under the shadow of Russian aggression. Nations that know what it means to stand on the front line of history. The United Kingdom's Defense Minister John Healey put it plainly: "We will help make the skies safe, to make the seas safe, and to secure the land." Those words alone send a shiver through Moscow. Because if Ukraine gains real protection for its skies and seas, Russia loses the leverage it has relied on: terror from above, destruction from the air, and blackmail of Europe through energy and naval blockades. But this is not just about pledges. The Paris summit laid out the beginnings of a blueprint for Ukraine's long-term security. Zelenskyy explained the key pillars: a strong, independent Ukrainian army, expanded European defense manufacturing, the right for Ukraine to purchase cutting-edge weapons, especially US-made air defense systems, and a permanent international presence on Ukrainian soil to deter future attacks. This is not the Ukraine that Russia hoped to create. This is the opposite. Macron added more details. There will be no limits placed on the size or capabilities of Ukraine's military. None. Europe and its allies will not demand Ukraine shrink its armed forces or abandon its weapons. Instead, they will help rebuild Ukraine's military to be bigger, stronger, and better equipped than ever before. That, more than anything else, is a direct rebuke to Putin's invasion. Because remember, one of Russia's stated war goals was the demilitarization of Ukraine. The Kremlin wanted to cut Ukraine's army down to a mere 50,000 men, a skeleton force incapable of defending itself. A force so weak that Russia could crush it at will. Now, 26 nations have declared the exact opposite. Ukraine's military will grow as large as it needs to be, with the full backing of the West. It is a staggering reversal. But there is a caveat, one that Putin will cling to desperately. These commitments only begin after the war ends. For now, Ukraine must continue fighting alone, with only the existing flow of weapons and aid keeping it afloat. No foreign troops will march across Ukrainian soil, not yet. And that delay gives Russia one slim chance to keep the war going, no matter the cost. If Ukraine never finds peace, these guarantees never take effect. For Putin, dragging out the war is now a matter of survival, but the math is not on his side. In April of 2025, Russia captured only 68 square miles of territory in Ukraine. The cost? Nearly 5,000 vehicles destroyed and more than 36,000 casualties. Ukraine itself is 233,000 square miles. At this pace, Russia would need more than 2 centuries and millions upon millions of lives to conquer the entire country. It is an impossible war of attrition, a war Russia cannot win. So Putin is searching for another way. That's where the United States comes into play. While President Donald Trump did not attend the Paris summit in person, he spoke with Zelenskyy by phone, and his envoy, Steve Witkoff, appeared briefly in Paris. The role the U.S. will play in this coalition remains undefined, but make no mistake, it will be decisive. The U.S. has already ruled out sending its own troops into Ukraine, but its presence in Europe, particularly in Poland, means American forces will continue to play a role in training, intelligence, and deterrence. More importantly, the U.S. is expected to provide the backbone of Ukraine's future defenses: advanced air systems, missiles, and cutting-edge technology. And then there are sanctions. Trump has already floated the idea of massive secondary tariffs on Russia, targeting not only Moscow but its partners like India. The message is clear: cooperate or suffer economic isolation. This economic warfare could be just as crippling to Russia as any military confrontation. Still, there is tension. European leaders want clarity. Germany, for example, has said it will only finalize its commitment once the U.S. role is made explicit. Italy, too, has hesitated, offering training and monitoring rather than troops. Everyone is waiting to see how far Washington is willing to go. Meanwhile, the war rages on. In the days leading up to the Paris summit, Russia launched a brutal wave of drone and missile attacks. More than 500 drones and dozens of missiles rained down on Ukrainian cities, leaving tens of thousands without power. Ukraine managed to shoot down most of them, but not all. These strikes are a brutal reminder of why Ukraine needs a stronger shield for its skies, and why the coalition's promises matter so much. And yet, amidst the discussions of weapons and troops, another subject quietly surfaced in Paris: Ukraine's future in the European Union. For years, Kiev has sought EU membership, applying in 2022 and gaining candidate status just months later. Now, with the coalition in place, Ukraine's accession may accelerate. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen even hinted that Ukraine could join by 2030 faster than most previous candidates. For Zelenskyy, EU membership is not just symbolic. It anchors Ukraine to the West permanently. For Putin, surprisingly, EU membership is not the main issue. We have never objected to Ukraine joining the EU, he said recently. What he cannot accept is NATO. That, for the Kremlin, is the ultimate red line. And here lies Putin's plan B. If he cannot win on the battlefield, he will try to win at the negotiating table. He will push for a peace deal that excludes NATO from Ukraine's future. He will argue that EU membership is tolerable, but NATO presence is not. And if he succeeds, he could cut the legs out from under the coalition, stripping away the most militarily capable members. But NATO itself is pushing back. Its new Secretary General, Mark Rutte, made the point clear: Ukraine is a sovereign nation. If it wants foreign troops on its soil as part of a peace deal, that is Ukraine's choice, not Russia's. The message? Moscow does not get a veto, and that is the heart of the matter. Russia wanted to dictate Ukraine's future. Instead, it now faces a reality where Ukraine chooses its allies, its defenses, and its place in Europe. So where does that leave Putin? He is cornered. He cannot win quickly on the battlefield. He cannot fracture the Western alliance. And he cannot dictate the terms of Ukraine's security. His only options are bad ones: fight a war that will bleed Russia dry for generations, or accept a peace that guarantees Ukraine's independence and security for decades to come. Neither outcome is the victory he promised his people, but history is moving fast, and Russia's falling behind. The coalition of the willing has already reshaped the strategic map of Europe. It has sent an unmistakable signal to Moscow: aggression will not be rewarded, and Ukraine will not be abandoned. The war is not over. The suffering is not over. But the future is beginning to take shape. And that future looks nothing like the one Vladimir Putin imagined when he launched his invasion. Because in Paris, on a single September day, 26 nations stood together and told the Kremlin a simple truth: Ukraine will live, Ukraine will fight, and Ukraine will never again stand alone.